Okay, so what do I think of Twilight Imperium overall? Well, obviously I very much enjoyed this game. It's one of my favorite games, and that's really what motivated me to do this review video. It's more of kind of a review/overview video because there's not a lot of videos out there that I could find on the internet that talk about this game. I'll put some links in the posting on YouTube to some other things that may be useful to you. But I'm very enthusiastic about this game. I've had a lot of great fun with it, with friends and other people I've met through the internet, through Boardgame, which is a great website to connect with other people who play the games that you want to play. In this case, for example, I could search for people in my area who own this game, and I figured that was a pretty good bet that they'd be up for playing, and it has worked out quite well. So some of the things I really like about this game, I made a couple notes here myself to remind me. One is that it's very interactive. There are some games that I've played, there's definitely some Euro games that fall into this area that are very much sort of a multiplayer solitaire kind of scenario, where each player is trying to optimize some kind of resources or worker placement or something like that, and it doesn't really seem like what the other players do have as much effect on them. In fact, it can be difficult to affect the other players much at all, and you're really just trying to optimize your own civilization or what have you. This game is anything but that. First of all, it's not like I take my turn and it takes me a long time and everybody's sitting around waiting for me to take my turn, because basically I only get to do one action and then play passes to somebody else and then they take an action. Even if I do many of the actions that I might do likely involve another player. If I'm invading one of your planets, or if I'm even thinking about doing it, then we might be talking and you'd be, negotiating, please don't invade me there, here's what I'll do for you if you don't, or threatening that, total annihilation if you do. If I'm playing a strategy card, then everybody else in the game is going to have a chance of playing the secondary ability. So you tend to want to pay real close attention when somebody else is taking their turn, because if they decide to do their strategy card, you've got to be ready. You want to be thinking about what is it, am I going to do the secondary or not, ability of that card. So really there's just a huge degree of interaction, so you never get bored waiting, will his turn ever be over. The second big thing, this is probably the biggest factor for me, is the theme. I love the idea of a space opera type game, a Conquer the Galaxy type of game, and this game perfectly captures that in my mind. One of my favorite computer games, Sword of the Stars, is very much sort of the computer equivalent of this game. So the game has all the different aspects of technology trees and different races that start out with different racial bonuses and penalties, which causes you to really need to play them differently to be successful. Lots of beautiful, colorful, high-quality components. The ships are great. I love the fact that they look like some of the favorite ships from sci-fi series, and it feels great picking up a piece of plastic instead of just a little cardboard counter. They just look much more impressive when you look over the board. You see this massive fleet. It's very frightening to look at coming at you. The racial, different technology, specific text that they can research, the different starting text that they have, the different board situation means that the way you use research in the game is never the same. You don't have one favorite path, because if you play a different race and your board situation is different, like maybe you've got a gravity rift nearby, and you really decide to go for a gravity drive so that you can slingshot and move a couple of more spaces than people would be expecting. There's also just all the little bling rules I could possibly imagine. I mean, incorporating all these aspects like trade, and the mechanic I like. You actually trade somebody, you give them a contract, they give you one, and now you've got a contract in front of you. It says you have a trade agreement with someone, and you know who you have it with, and it tells you how much you're getting every time the trade strategy card is played. But there's all these other things, space mines, the colonies and refineries, the technology bonuses for some of the planets. All the planets have their own little story. All the action cards have their little bit of flavor text on them, which you can read to just add drama to the thing. And you know, building your own special flagship that has unique abilities that no one else's does really makes it great for theme. From a replayability standpoint, the fact that their objectives are different every game, there's a set that you're drawing from, but you know, you'll have different things to be going after, including your own secret objectives, is great. Again, you might, you know, there's with the expansions I've got, there's like 20 races or something, so you've got a huge ability to be having different mixtures of races in any given game. The galaxy map is generated randomly by the players, so there's first of all, there's the strategy aspect of, as you're building it, trying to, you know, end up with good planets near you and bad stuff near your enemy, and maybe trying to make a wall if you can to block off one person on one side of you, so you only really have to defend on one side. Lots of things you can do there. And of course you have different players and different strategies that they're going to follow, which makes every game very different. You know, one of the other big things about this game, I talked about the interaction before, is kind of relates to the one con of the game that I see is that it is a lengthy game. It typically, my experience with playing with typically, like, say, you know, between 3 to 5 players is we'll typically play from 5 to 8 hours. Now, that takes certainly a time commitment from people. You can speed that up. I'll have a link here to some things that you can do to speed the game up. One of the biggest things is for people to be making sure they know ahead of time when their turn comes around what they're going to do, instead of waiting till then to start thinking about it. That can speed things along. And if somebody keeps reminding people to do that, that really can accelerate things. But the time flies by. You're never sitting there bored. There's always something exciting happening. And one of the really cool things about it is there's all sorts of fascinating negotiating and lots of humor and laughter going on through the whole game. You know, people are like stabbing each other and threatening each other and making deals, and you have all sorts of room to negotiate. You know, you can make deals because it's kind of like diplomacy, but with much more variety of things you can make deals about. I mean, you're making deals, you know, if you vote for this law, then I'll give you these trade goods now, or I promise I'll give you 3 trade goods when I get some, or, you know, I'll give this promissory note to you. You know, I'm going to I promise not to attack you on this front. As long, you know, I won't try to threaten these 2 planets here as long as you let me have this one. Lots of opportunity for negotiation, and that's kind of the biggest thing in my book is I spend you know, like the other day we started at 9, or actually 10 in the morning is when we actually started the game, and that included starting building the map, which took us, you know, I forget, 20 minutes or so to do, at 10 a.m. and we finished at 6. So that was an 8-hour game with, there were 4 of us, no, how many of us playing? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 of us playing. So it was just fun the entire time. Even the nice thing is, if somebody gets behind, there's not much incentive to wipe them out. The incentive is for the people who aren't the leader in victory points to be trying to gang up against the leader. So that means everybody stays in the game, nobody gets killed and sits around bored for a couple of hours. You know, the person who's no threat, everybody leaves them alone, which gives them a chance to start becoming a threat. So that's kind of a summary of the game. I highly recommend it, and I hope the video was useful and entertaining.